My next guest is the in-house voice of the Raptors, chaplain of the Toronto Argonauts, and co-chaplain of the NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors. But his faith is what he is most passionate about sharing. Welcome, Herbie Kuhn, to 100 Huntley Street.
Upstairs.
I almost, my arm just almost fell off because of that ring. Let's get a close-up of this thing. Now, this is not the Raptors ring. This is the Argos ring.
This is a 2017 Grey Cup ring from the Toronto Argonauts.
And you are getting your Raptors ring tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
So
yes.
I'm
excited.
What finger are you gonna put it on? You're just gonna be like walking around like this?
I've got it sized for the ring finger. It'll be a 13 and a half. So
do you
I
alternate?
got big digits.
One day you'll wear the Argos. One day you'll wear
I'll be honest with you, Meg. I very rarely wear them. I very rarely wear them. You know, it's not exactly something you want to wear going to the grocery store or something that gets a little bit too much attention. But I figure, you know what? I'm going to be on national TV with Maggie John on Huntley Street. I'm bringing out the bling today. It's that simple. Absolutely.
Okay, let's go back to last season.
Yes.
As the voice of the Toronto Raptors, what was it like having a front row view of history unfolding?
It was extremely exciting.
Yeah.
And I think the word that comes to my soul, my experience the most is gratifying. So it was so gratifying and satisfying after having invested, so many people having invested so much energy and so much skill and so much expertise and so much sacrifice. To see that come to fruition with a championship was really, really wonderful. So for me, having been there since day one, so last year was my 24th season. This season is my 25th season with the team. I was just so satisfied. It was very rewarding. And, you know, a lot of people, when you're involved in pro sports, people take great pleasure in analyzing and breaking down and criticizing the moves of every general manager or president or coach. And Masai had over the last years come under, you know, whatever form of critiquing of the moves and trades and decisions he's made. And I'm just so proud of the guy. You know, he made the calls that he needed to make. Some of them were tough ones. But who's going to argue now? We're the reigning NBA champions. Nobody's going to argue with that. And the other word I've got to use is unifying. How often do you have fans in Halifax and Calgary and Regina and Vancouver across the country cheering for a Toronto team? When's the last time that happened? When the Blue Jays won the World Series, 92, 93, right? That's it. So for me, and now in this, this day of social media, for me to see crowds of 20, 30,000 people gathering outdoors to watch the games on screens in Mississauga and in Halifax and all these cities across the country, everyone cheering for the Raptors. Just so wonderful, so exciting. And to be, as you said, front row for all the home games and to be a witness to history, to announce the Game 7 clinching game over Philadelphia, to announce the clinching game over the Milwaukee Bucks, and then to almost get to announce the clinching game over Golden State, the Game 5 where Kyle had a chance, the winning shot, and Draymond got his big paw in the way. But regardless, just such a great run, so exciting, and memories that will definitely last a lifetime.
Were you at the parade as well?
Yeah, I was at the Nathan Phillips Square, waiting and waiting
for hours
for the parade to arrive.
I
can't remember the specifics, Maggie, but I think it was supposed to take 2 to 2.5 hours from the Princess Gates there to get to
normal day.
On a normal day,
sense.
and I think it took 4 or 4.5 hours. And I had it good. I mean, you know, we were sheltered, and I had some food and beverage and stuff. But there were a lot of fans, and I'm talking about diehard fans who had been lined up since the day before, who were there at the front, who were wedged in close to the stage. And I really got to give it to those people. They really hung in there, and they sacrificed, and they got to see an incredible celebration. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I think the wait took a little bit of the zest out of it, but regardless, the experience itself and introducing all the players and introducing the dignitaries was really fantastic.
So do you think we could do it again this
Absolutely.
year? Of course.
Absolutely.
You couldn't say no. You have to say yes.
You know what? There's objectivity, right?
Yeah, of course.
And the common fan would say, we lost Kawhi, you know, he was our guy, so on and so forth. All I've got to say is this: there's a reason you play every game. And we have a veteran core, Ibaka, Lowry, Van Vliet, Powell, Siakam, and you know, we've got these guys who've now been there, done that, who are all incredibly talented and skilled players in their own right. Don't get me wrong, Kawhi's Kawhi. He's a category unto himself. However, we've got a core. and we've got some great young players right now, and I truly believe we have a legitimate shot.
Okay.
Absolutely. Look at our, look how we're doing so far.
We're doing really well.
We're doing pretty well so far, and the sky's the limit. We're going to get to the playoffs, and once the playoffs happen, it's anybody's ball game. It's anybody's ball. So why not us again?
Yeah.
I'm saying we repeat.
But
we
first,
repeat.
Christmas.
Two-time.
Christmas, the Christmas game has to happen, and we are excited about that. Christmas Day game.
Yeah, we get to host the Boston Celtics
Right.
on
It's
Christmas Day
exciting.
in just a few weeks, and it's a mixed emotions thing, obviously.
Yep.
As a family man,
Yep.
it's mixed emotions. So from an NBA perspective, it's obviously a privilege,
Big deal.
right? Because that's kind of a validation,
Right.
if you will. The Raptors have, made the big time. We're a legitimate team, and therefore they give us that marquee position playing against the Celtics, one of our divisional rivals,
Yeah.
on Christmas Day. So from that perspective, it's spectacular,
It is.
and I'm excited for it. From a Christmas Day family perspective, you know what? I think our game's at 1:30 Eastern, so we should be done by 4.
Yeah.
I should be home for Christmas dinner.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So
Turkey
yeah.
will be ready for you.
Exactly. Honey, son, I'll be back in time for dinner that night, okay? Don't you worry.
Tell me about being a chaplain for some of these big teams
Yeah.
and just bringing the faith element, reminding athletes that, God is at the center of all of this.
God is the author
Yes.
of the talents and the skills that you are using to build your career and to earn your salary and to influence other individuals. The biggest thing that we deal with as chaplains, Maggie, if I may speak on behalf of my other chaplains across the association and across the CFL, is identity, is an athlete's identity, who they believe themselves to be at their core. And so many athletes have spent their entire lifetimes as, the man or the one, the go-to person, right? They were the go-to person on their high school team. They were the go-to person on their university or college team. Then they get to the pros and they're at the end of the bench, or they have an injury and they're sitting out for a number of games or half a season, or hopefully it never happens, occasionally a season or career-ending injury. And when that happens, and if your identity is completely centered around, hey, I'm so-and-so and I play this sport, then guess what? Who do you and what do you lean on? Do you lean on the friends, your fair weather friends who want to be around you when everything's going well? Do you lean on your bank account? Well, yeah, that can help for a time at least, but it's not going to satisfy what's on the inside. And so as chaplains...
And what happens when you get injured?
Yeah, exactly.
And no one's interested in you anymore?
Absolutely. And
What do you do with
all
your
of a sudden you're
identity
no
then?
longer today's news, now you're yesterday's news. And so, one of the things that you and I were talking about earlier is I delight when a young player comes into the league and decides to make chaplaincy, delights in making our pregame chapels part of his or her regular routine. And when they get that figured out from the get-go, from the onset of their career, it makes a big difference in being able to handle the adversities that inevitably will come. Not may come. Jesus said, in this world, you will have trouble. And it's the same thing in sports. You will have adversity, whether it's an injury, whether it's the naysayers, whether it's the media, whether it's your own teammates, sometimes your own family, asking for this and this and this because you make a lot of money. You're going to have issues. What are you going to lean on? That's the question. And so we bring Christ into the mix. We bring the scripture into the mix. We open up the word. We share from a specific passage or a specific theme that's relevant to the athlete today in 2019. And that's what we do on a consistent basis. And we try to be a voice that's, while we're connected to the team, we have a little bit of separation from the team as well as athletes in action chaplains, at least within the CFL and with the Raptors perspective. So we have a little bit of separation, which gives us a little bit of an outsider perspective, it's just a good deal. It's a good deal.
And Herbie, you're speaking from experience. You grew up in church, your mom took you to church, but there was a time in your life where you were searching for purpose and searching for identity as well.
Absolutely. To put it politely, I spent a number of years, teenage and young adult years, pursuing everything that the world had to offer. And while temporarily pleasurable and while temporarily satisfying, they were certainly not long-term solutions. And they were certainly not the solutions that leave you feeling at peace with your maker when you're lying in your bed at the end of the night staring up at the ceiling. And so it was on November the 3rd, 1996 at Grant African Methodist Episcopal Church, AME Church, Woodbine and Girard, where I gave my life to Christ, responded to the altar call that morning. And here's what changed. So we know all about the big spiritual things, forgiveness, and those are wonderful, don't get me wrong. But for me, it was about, okay, I've been living for me. I've been using my talents for me, the voice that God has given me. It's not like I chose it. Hey, Lord, I'll take the deep one, please. Didn't work out that way. And now everything readjusted. I recalibrated, if you will. Lord, this voice, these talents, this boldness to step in front of loud crowds, this confidence to share in front of groups of people, instead of using it for patting myself on the back, now I want to use it for your kingdom. Wow. And that perspective changed everything. Lord, I want to do this for you, for your glory. You direct my career. You direct where you want me to go. And I will try my best to be content with whatever decisions you make, Lord.
Yeah. And you were just listing, your schedule in a normal week. And it's full of doing things for God.
Absolutely.
So I want to go back and I want to find out, how did you become the in-house voice of the Raptors? How did God make that happen?
Long story short, 1994 World Championships of basketball. We're in Hamilton and Toronto.
Yeah.
I was one of about a dozen announcers that was chosen for those World Championships. I had started at Vanier College in Montreal, sent in a VHS people, VHS people, sent in a VHS videotape of highlights to the gentleman who I knew was hiring the PA announcers for the World Championships. Fast forward a year. I didn't realize at the time that that was run by John Bittov's group. John was the Raptors' original majority owner. The same gentleman who hired all the announcers for the World Championships. It ended up being part of his portfolio to hire the first PA announcer for the Raptors. So I had my proverbial toe across the line. Wouldn't let them shut the door. I was announcing at Humber College, York University, doing as many games as I could to gain experience. And one day I got a phone call in August of 1995. Herbie, would you come down to the office? We'd like to speak to you about the PA announcer's job, please. Here we are, 25 seasons later, my dear, and still flying and still loving it, and one NBA championship and counting.
Wow,
yes,
that's
ma'am.
amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
You also, as we talk about identity and journey, you and your wife also went through a time of infertility.
Yep.
And found your son in South Africa around this time, around Christmas time as well. And I just think, again, when you're ministering to people and you've had so much life experience, you're able to show people, you know what, I've been there. I can understand the struggles you're going through.
Yeah, it's about empathy. Chaplaincy is about being able to walk in the steps. It's doing what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Putting himself into their circumstances, into the real life experiences of the beggars, of the blind people, of the crippled, of the cast outs, the prostitutes, the tax collectors. And through the experiences that I have gone through as an individual, the experiences that Stephanie and I have gone through as a husband and wife, and the experiences that we've gone through as a family, absolutely, I tap into those. I tap into those and I say, hey, you know what? You're 22 years old, you're 23 years old, and you think your life is falling apart. I know how you feel. Let me share with you one of my experiences. Even though I'm 50 now, it wasn't that long ago, and some circumstances wasn't that long ago within the last couple of years where our hearts have been broken as well. And when you're able to say, I've been in that kind of pain, it makes the message and the one-on-one all that much more relatable, all that more personal. So by God's grace, I've never really had an issue with connecting with my athletes at that level. And also as someone who was born around sports. I was raised playing hockey and lacrosse. I played rugby for 10 years. I do long distance running. I've done 6 marathons. I've done half marathons. So I know what it's like to strive for a goal. I know what it's like to deal with injuries. I know what it's like to have people say, are you sure you're going to be able to accomplish that? I don't think you can do that. I know what all that stuff is like. And having been in pro sports for 25 years now, I've experienced, by God's grace, pretty much, okay, not every circumstance, I'm sure there's still some to come, but most circumstances that an athlete can go through, I've either dealt with it myself or I've walked with an athlete through that at this stage of the game. And the same can be said of all of our chaplains, all of our athletes in action chaplains across the CFL. We've all walked through sports for so long that we can be in that unique place to be able to identify with our athletes and wherever they're coming from.
So Herbie, my last question is, what have you learned
Last
about,
question?
I
want to sit here and talk all day. Come on, Maggie.
I think the people at home need to move on. What have you learned about God through the journeys and the ups and downs?
Faithfulness. Faithfulness.
Yeah.
Whenever you think he's not there, whenever you're feels like everything has hit the wall and you don't know what there is to cling on to, you don't feel like, even if there is, you're not even sure if you actually want to keep reaching.
Yeah.
You're at that point of wanting to give up, and you're at that point of desperation. I've learned the most important thing in life is never stop walking forwards. Always put one foot in front of the other, even when you want to give up, even when you want to mail it in, even when you're dealing with mental illness, been there.
Yeah.
Even when you've thought about taking your own life, been there.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Sometimes faith looks like just putting one foot in front of the other. And when we are determined by God's grace and by the power of his Holy Spirit to keep putting one foot in front of the other, he has promised to meet us in that point of desperation. And I can't explain to you with words in the English language how he does it or what that sensei, all I know is that the next day I'm still here.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'm still here. And then there's purpose, and then there's something to move forward for, and then there's something that stirs your spirit again, and then next thing you know, you're back and you've got some momentum going again. So the one thing I've learned is faithfulness. God's faithfulness. And if I may add on one thing quickly, I read in my devotionals this morning from 1 Peter chapter 3 that says, the apostle Peter encourages the believers, always be prepared. Always be prepared to share the reason whenever anybody asks you about the hope that you have. And one thing I've learned, Maggie, is this: we live in a very hurting world, a very hurting world. And people need to hear about God. People need to hear about Christ. And I'm not saying we need to shove it down their throats. I'm not saying we need to ram it and share it every single split-second opportunity. But what I'm saying is this: we need to be in the heart set and the mindset to be prepared to share whenever those opportunities come about. And Lord, have mercy. If we were to start every day with this prayer, Lord, I know that someone today is going to cross my path who needs a word of encouragement. Would you please reveal that person to me? And always be prepared to give a reason whenever anybody asks you about the hope you have, and to do it with sincerity and gentleness and grace. I think we would make a big, big difference in the lives of hurting people around us. And it buoys our own spirits as well when we do so.
Well said, Mr. Kuhn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my friend. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, can we do another one of these?
Yes, of course.
There we go.
Ow. Stay with us. We'll be right back. That's a big ring.